All right, once again, actually not in central Pennsylvania. I should say that welcome back to another day in Monrovia, Liberia, where it rains 16 hours a day for 7 months of the year. It feels like Monrovia. Well, I don't think I've seen this much rain since I lived in Liberia, folks, a long time ago. Man, oh man, it is. I swore I saw Noah a short while ago. He asked me to help repair his ark. Got my wood tools out. We banged on that leaky head going on there. But anyway, welcome back to the program, folks. It's Chris live in central Pennsylvania with the mobile edition on the go. Once again, from Carlisle, Pennsylvania this time. How y'all doing out there? I see somebody came and left, or maybe that's just YouTube playing its usual games. But we've got news to talk about today. This will be an abbreviated broadcast. I will probably only be online for about 45 minutes. If somebody could alert me when it's about 5 minutes to the top of the hour, I'd be grateful for that. Just give me a heads up because I don't see the time on my screen. Just say, hey, it's 5 minutes to the top of the hour. That way I can drop off because we have Wednesdays with the Colonel and I'll be on with Ronaldo for a little bit there. So if you could just let me know when we get 5 minutes to the top of the hour. Debbie says, okay, thank you so much for that. So we'll be here for about 45 minutes or 40 minutes or thereabouts. So let's start off the news. Fort Hare, that's a university in South Africa, the top ranks of Fort Hare are rocked by a 171 million rand graft scandal and money laundering allegations. The graft cleanup at the University of Fort Hare has been rocked by a 171 million kickback money for pals racket allegedly orchestrated from within the vice chancellor Sakahala Bulungu's inner circle and from the iconic institution's management suite. Wow. Well, it's just another day and more ANC corruption, right? What are you going to say? Officials, university's upper echelons, as well as lawyers, forensic experts, and security bosses were arrested during the weekend in what the state alleges was the dismantling of a network that milked university coffers through dodgy contracts and suspicious billing born of an anti-corruption drive. Now, speaking of suspicious billing and corruption and undue affluence and misuse of state resources, let's talk about new broad-based Black economic empowerment. New BEE laws coming to South Africa. This immoral and, dare I say, it's illegal, but once they pass a law, that makes it legal. But apartheid was legal, didn't make it morally right. But this immoral legislation to favor people based on their skin pigmentation, the racist bigotry, the hateful legislation being passed by the ANC in the name of equality and inclusion. It's not equality, it's not inclusion, it is racist and it will destroy South Africa. And where does a government get off telling, this is communism, pure and simple. The communist Chinese in Beijing, the Soviets in Moscow, they're the ones that dictated, Cuban communists in Havana, they're the ones that dictate who can own what and who you have to hire. So instead of hiring competent people, what we're doing is playing games. And I have another story for you a little bit later on when people are losing their minds over a fake racial incident. This has got to stop, people. Humans are smarter than the stupidity that we're experiencing right now. It really has to stop. So new BEE laws coming to South Africa, and I'm focused on one of them. In April of last year, President Cyril Ramaphosa signed the Employment Equity Amendment Act into law. Although the bill was introduced a year ago, the commencement date is yet to be promulgated. In other words, they haven't put it into effect because they're waiting until after the election because they know it would destroy South Africa's economy. To address the sectoral numerical targets provided in the Amendment Act, new draft regulations were introduced on February 1st of this year. South Africa's free base, well, that's the wrong place. What happened there? Sorry. Something wrong just happened there. Anyway, yeah. So this is the law in which the government says that any company that employs 50 or more people must employ people based on their skin pigmentation, not on their contribution, not on their talent, not on their sweat equity, not on their merit, not on their investment in a corporation. You must hire people who are Black because you're told to. You can't hire Indians because you have too many Indians. You can't hire whites because you have too many whites. This is the death of private enterprise in South Africa. It's already been crippled by the ANC's oligarchy that runs all the industries. I mean, only a handful of countries run the mining. Companies run the mining. Only a handful of companies in South Africa run the retail sector and then the food sector. It's all controlled by a cabal of Black and white corporate elite interests that are destroying free market enterprise in South Africa. And this will only make it worse. You can only hire people based on their skin color. What I just saw a text coming from Elon Musk saying extremely concerning. I don't know what that's about, but this is extremely concerning. What's coming out of South Africa? Excuse me. So, not just for the rich, solar use is booming among low-income households in South Africa. Why? Because you, the taxpayer, are providing for them. Yep. So, according to new statistics, South Africa's release Stats South Africa, Stats South Africa, which is a government organization, released a publication called Solar Energy for the Poor. Yeah, municipalities to provide alternative source of energy to a total of 193,290 low-income households that are not connected to the grid. So let me put this in perspective for you folks. 200,000 families have gotten handouts courtesy of you. Those of you who actually pay taxes in South Africa, you've provided solar power for 200,000 low-income families. Do you have solar panels in your house? Do you have any alternative energy? 149,919 families have gotten solar. That's 77.6% of those getting alternative. And then 5% got bioethanol gel or fire gel. That sounds like napalm. Bioethanol gel or fire gel. It sounds suspiciously like napalm. What did Martin Sheen say? And was it Martin Sheen or was it Duvall? Robert Duvall said in Apocalypse Now, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Well, South Africa's free basic alternative energy policy instructs municipalities to provide free basic services to indigent households, such as free basic alternative energy, any other form of basic energy, including solar systems. The policy was introduced to aid predominantly rural municipalities that struggled to provide free basic electricity to a relatively high number of indigent households in unelectrified areas. Wow. So you are paying for other people to have solar installations. Do you have solar, Little Miss Know-It-All, in your house? Because you're paying taxes. So it was Robert Duvall. Thank you, Garrett. Martin Sheen was the guy investigating Robert Duvall. So anyway, so poor households in South Africa are getting solar installations at your expense. Do you have solar? Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this should just really be the story that the opposition parties are talking about. Thousands of South Africans have sought asylum abroad, according to Stats South African Migration Report. Once again, thousands of South Africans have successfully sought asylum in other countries because they were endangered in South Africa. They met the standards for asylum. South Africa's first report of migration shows while fewer people are making the applications for refugee status in South Africa, more South Africans are seeking protection in the U.S., Ireland, and Canada. In March of 2018, The Guardian leftist newspaper reported that South Africa demanded that Australian Home Affairs Minister Peter Dutton retract his comments suggesting white farmers were being persecuted and should receive fast-track humanitarian visas from a civilized country. Yeah, they didn't like Peter Dutton for saying that. The racist ANC didn't like that. Commenting in a documentary about rural violent crime, Dutton said farmers in South Africa deserve special attention. In 2010, Charles and Naira Nell told Canada's Immigration and Refugee Board that they fear being victims of crime and violence. The women feared rape, which is prevalent in South Africa, and all feared violence targeting whites. In 2014, the Nell family were granted asylum. The Nell family were granted asylum in Canada because South Africa is a rape capital of the world, like India. And women feared for their lives to be raped. Of course, in South Africa, they don't just rape women, they then murder them in a brutal fashion. So they got asylum out of fear of rape. One of South Africa's most prominent or infamous asylum seekers was Brendan Huntley, who entered Canada on a temporary work visa back in 2004, alleged that he was being targeted in South Africa because he was white. Huntley claimed that he'd been assaulted and stabbed 7 times by black people because he was white, while being called a white dog and a settler, but never reported his alleged attackers or incidents of racism to the police. Well, yeah, because the police are complicit in some of these crimes. Would you report to the police when your life is in danger? Probably not from the police. In 2014, a Canadian court turned down his application, saying Huntley did not meet the criteria for refugee status. But the women who fear unidentified rapists got it. Interesting. Now, the South African statistics report shows that the brain drain to South Africa has been significant, with fewer numbers of South Africans returning home after being abroad in the past decade, despite anecdotal reports to the contrary. In 20 years, the number of South Africans residing abroad swelled from 501,600 to 914,901, and that's only up until 2020, as the data is based on the latest available information from the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. And that information, in my view, my estimation, my analysis, is highly suspect. I'll tell you that that information is probably much higher than 900,000. There's no way there's only 900,000 South Africans who have fled South Africa. It's much higher. In 2021, the United States was the primary destination for South African asylum seekers, people seeking to flee South Africa because they're being persecuted. with 1,370 people seeking refuge in the United States. Ireland was another prominent destination with 638 South African asylum seekers, while Australia had 495. Canada had 187, Israel 391 last year. Smaller numbers of people have asked UK, Brazil, France, Korea, and Germany for asylum. In 2022, the U.S. remained the leading destination with 1,351, so almost as high as the previous year. In 2022, Ireland saw an increase to 726, wow, while Australia saw a rise to 525. Canada also saw an increase with 321 people seeking asylum from South Africa. And that should speak volumes to you, ladies and gentlemen, about the state of affairs in South Africa, that thousands of South Africans have had to seek asylum abroad. 4,258 South Africans are identified as successful asylum-seeking refugees fleeing South Africa's governance. That should be the poster. That should be, the ANC governance is so bad, so incompetent, so corrupt that 4,258 South Africans have been successfully granted political asylum abroad for fear of their life or their safety in South Africa. There's your opposition advert for the election right there, folks. Gauteng Education Department calls for a probe into alleged racism at Curro schools on career day. Now, this one just takes the cake. This is ridiculous. People need to start having more of a skin here, a thick skin, and stop whining about fake racist incidents. The Gauteng Department of Education says an urgent investigation is needed at Curro schools, following allegations that racial stereotypes were perpetrated at a career day at the school. The department said a recent social media post by private school group Curro Holdings conveyed a racially unbalanced narrative concerning the potential future career of learners. This, however, should be seen within the background of recent racial challenges that Curro has faced, one of which involved a black educator being called a monkey at one of his institutions. Well, that is a serious issue, but that's not what's happening here. An outcry followed the career day post of a black child posing as a cashier serving a white child. Meanwhile, white children represented professions such as veterinarians, among others. So let me ask you this question, ladies and gentlemen. How many of you go to Checkers or Pick and Pay or ShopRite or JBL or any retail location in South Africa? How many times do you see a white person working at the till? How is it a racial stereotype when 95% of the people who run tills are black? It's not a stereotype, it's a reality. And oh, by the way, these racists who are calling this a racist incident, are they ashamed of people who earn a living, who work for their way in life? Is that the message you want to get across? That it's morally wrong to work as a cashier, as a till operator? Wow. That's a message I don't think we need to convey to people who are trying to work hard and make a living to pay for their needs and meet their family's needs. Wow. I have never, ever, once in my life, in a supermarket, ever in South Africa, in the hundreds of times I've been there, ever seen a white till operator. So who is supposed to be operating the tills? If you put the white person there, then that would raise, well, wait a second, white people don't work tills, or rarely do. Now they work them in their own businesses and such, but this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Wow. Wow. So the department added the Gauteng Department of Education does not take such racial incidents lightly, as they may be cultivating attitudes which reflect a society that has not fully dealt with racism. So what should we do? Ban black people from working tills? Is that it? And this poses a threat not only to the education system and the model citizens and divisions to create, but also to the nation that still tirelessly works towards overcoming such attitudes. Really? No, the only attitudes the ANC and the nation are trying to overcome are to perpetuate black supremacy. If black South Africans aren't elevated and put in charge of everything, which isn't the reality, then the ANC-led government is angry because they are black supremacists. They're not equal. They're not rainbow. They don't care about equality. They don't care about fairness of opportunity. They sure don't care about merit. They care about black supremacy. And not just black supremacy for black folks. Ladies and gentlemen, they don't care about the till operators. They don't care about the people mucking out the stalls. They don't care about the people working the farms and picking grapes in the Western Cape. They don't care about those black folks. The only black folks the ANC cares about are its cadre, its cater. And make no mistake, that's the reality we're talking about here. Now, 9 suspects were killed in a shootout with police in Marion Hill in KZN. Wow. The suspects apparently were plotting a hit when officers caught up with them. 9 suspects were fatally wounded during a shootout with police in Desai in Marion Hill in the early hours of today. Police from the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Stabilization Team acted on intelligence about 11 suspects who had been terrorizing residents in Marion Hill and surrounding areas. Police spokesman Colonel Robert Netsihunda said the suspects were also sought after they allegedly gang raped a girl and made her mother watch during a house robbery. Wow. He said they were also on the police radar for other serious and violent crimes in the area. When police caught up with them, intelligence had uncovered the suspects were plotting to execute a hit. 3 firearms were found in possession of the suspects. A manhunt for 2 suspects is underway. Though police were ambushed when they erroneously knocked at the wrong house, the tactically astute officers, I love how the press calls that, this is a quote, tactically astute officers managed to retaliate and neutralize the threat with none suffering injuries. So they knocked on the wrong house and the criminals nearly took them out. Now, the community crowded the scene, with many climbing onto rooftops to gain a better vantage point. Some residents celebrated the death, saying the gang had caused a wave of terror. A community member who asked not to be named said, "At least now we will sleep in peace. These young boys have been making our lives hell. They had big guns and they would carry them on the streets. We were even afraid to walk on the road at night. We hope the other 2 will be arrested so our lives can go back to normal." And this is the state of affairs in the ANC's lawless South Africa, where citizens are terrorized because the police are incompetent, incapable, or unwilling to do their damn job. Now, that's the reality South Africans live with each and every day. Now, here's an interesting story. The South African National Defense Force disavows a claim in media and attacks the journalist who made the claim. The South African National Defense Forces dismissed claims that 2 of its soldiers deployed as part of the Southern African Development Community Mission in Democratic Republic of Congo, or SAMA-DRC, surrendered to the M23 rebels. A media report on National Security News has been doing the rounds on social media, stating that several South African soldiers have surrendered. The report, written by a Washington, D.C. correspondent, said, and I quote, "Several South African soldiers deployed to the ANC by the ANC government in the DRC as part of an ill-equipped and ill-prepared force reportedly surrendered to M23 rebels this past week. The soldiers are now reportedly being held as hostages by M23. SANDF spokesman Sifiwe Dlamini rejected the report. Dlamini said all SANDF members deployed in the DRC have been accounted for. The convoluted article published by the faceless Washington correspondent is dismissed with contempt it deserves. This is not the first time such unfounded and baseless news articles have been written about the SANDF since its deployment in the DRC with the SADC mission. The SANDF used such attempts to discredit the Defense Force in the most serious light by faceless people and will not stand by and allow its good name to be tarnished." But no comment about the soldiers in the DRC not having contracting services, not having toilets, not having cook stoves, not having resources, not having cash to buy things. We're not talking about that. So one begins to wonder if this faceless Washington journalist isn't disinformation from a SANDF that is not up to scratch to do its job in the DRC. A 7.2 magnitude earthquake struck Taiwan overnight, damaging buildings and infrastructure. Some photographs appearing on social media, absolutely crazy views of a building that has collapsed and tilted at 45-degree angle. It's still standing, but at 45-degree angle, it's even worse than the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Taiwan hit by the 7.2 magnitude, and a series of aftershocks and high magnitude have been happening. A 7.2 magnitude earthquake shook Taiwan early Wednesday, causing massive power outages and partial collapse of several buildings in eastern Taiwan. At least 7 people have died, and more than 700 have been injured. The earthquake's epicenter was located 25 kilometers off the island's east coast at a depth of 15.5 kilometers. Taiwan's Central Weather Administration said the earthquake caused changes in water levels off the east coast, and they issued a tsunami warning. The alert was lifted at 11 a.m. local time after the tsunami did not occur. Since the initial earthquake, which took place at 7:58 in the morning, local time, more than 100 aftershocks have been detected, and the strongest earthquake to have hit Taiwan in 25 years. At least 26 buildings have completely or partially collapsed across Taiwan. The earthquake caused damage across the island, with the most serious cases concentrated in Hualien County in the east. More than a dozen buildings in the county have been partially collapsed, while more than a dozen people have been rescued from 2 of the partially collapsed buildings in Hualien. At least 1 person was still trapped in the building as of 2 hours ago. Israel's war in Gaza. Israel continues to deny aid agency access, according to Al Jazeera, hardly an impartial observer. Israel continues to block United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian refugees from bringing food and other aid into northern Gaza, according to the aid agency. Now, that aid agency has been implicated in hiring Hamas terrorists who murdered civilians in Israel as part of the invasion of Israel on the 7th of October, 2023. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency, an organization roundly condemned around the world for having itself embedded with terrorists who murder innocent civilians, gang rape women, execute them, slice their breast off, and then put babies in ovens. Yeah, so how reliable is this report? Worldwide condemnation rises as Israel's military stands accused of deliberately targeting charity staff bringing food to thousands of Gaza Palestinians facing imminent famine. It doesn't seem plausible that it would be intentional. Israeli military calls the airstrike that killed 7 aid workers in Gaza a grave mistake, not an intentional targeting. But it does raise questions about Israel's intent and its objective and what the conduct of its operation. And the longer this goes on, the more scrutiny that Israel will face, and it will lose friends by its side continually. Benjamin Netanyahu's government needs to wrap this up as quick as possible. This thing is now stretched on from November, December, January, February, March, over 5 months, this effort to destroy Hamas, and it hasn't been destroyed yet. Uganda's Constitutional Court rejects a petition against the anti-gay law. The Anti-Homosexuality Act of 2023 imposes penalties of up to life in prison for consensual same-sex relations and possible death in aggravated homosexuality cases. Well, Ugandans are not backing off this. Uganda's Constitutional Court has rejected a petition seeking to annul the anti-gay law that has been roundly condemned internationally as one of the toughest in the world. The court found today that some sections of the law violated the right to health and was inconsistent with the right to health, privacy, and freedom of religion, but did not block or suspend the law. So it found that the law was unlawful, but it didn't take action. Now, how does that work? Justice Richard Butera, the Deputy Chief Justice and head of the court, said in the landmark ruling, "We decline to nullify the Anti-Homosexuality Act of 2023 in its entirety. Neither will we grant a permanent injunction against its enforcement, even though you said it's unlawful." Now, this is a ridiculous action by a court. According to Uganda television station NTV, the 5-member court reached a unanimous decision to reject the petition against the law, which enjoys broad popular support in the country. Well, that's not the basis of approving of laws. The basis of approving laws is existing law. The legislation was adopted in May, triggering outrage among the LGBTQ community, rights campaigners, United Nations, and many Western nations. President Yoweri Museveni, his government has struck a defiant tone with officials accusing the West of trying to pressure Africa into accepting homosexuality. Bassirou Diomaye Faye is sworn in as Senegal's 5th president and the youngest ever president for Senegal. Excuse me. Bassirou Diomaye Faye was sworn in Tuesday as Diamandio as Senegal's 5th president, having defeated main rival and ruling party coalition candidate Amadou Ba. So much easier to say, Amadou Ba. And winning the delayed election, which was delayed unconstitutionally, illegally, by Macky Sall, the president, with over 54% of the vote. Following the ceremony, which was about an hour from the center of the capital of Dakar, Faye reassured people who elected him that he's ready to move Senegal forward, saying the election results showed a profound desire for systemic change. Senegalese people have chosen to build the country that is just, he said, adding that he will work tirelessly to preserve the peace and national cohesion. At 44 years of age, Faye is the youngest man ever elected as president of Senegal. Now, the United States apparently told Russia that the Crocus City Hall was a possible target of attack, well in advance of the terror attack that occurred in Russia. So despite the fact that Joe Biden is having difficulties with his buddy there, Vladimir Putin, he still nonetheless shares U.S. sensitive intelligence with him. More than 2 weeks before terrorists, of course, Joe shares sensitive intelligence with anybody. According to his biographer, Joe said, "Hey, this is classified. Don't tell anybody it's classified, but you can put it in the book." More than 2 weeks before terrorists staged a bloody attack at the suburbs of Moscow, U.S. government told Russian officials that Crocus City Hall, a popular concert venue, was a potential target, according to U.S. officials familiar with the matter. Now, I know that, in fact, U.S. government warned U.S. citizens about a terror threat in Moscow in the days prior to the Crocus attack. The high degree of specificity conveyed in the warning underscores Washington's confidence that the Islamic State was preparing an attack that threatened large numbers of civilians, and it directly contradicts Moscow's claims the U.S. warnings were too general to help preempt the assault. The U.S. identification of the Crocus Concert Hall as a potential target, a fact that has not been previously reported, raises new questions about why Russian authorities failed to take stronger measures to protect the venue, where gunmen killed more than 140 people and set fire to the building. Well, perhaps the reason is because Russians don't trust American intelligence or Joe Biden. Maybe that's why they didn't take it more seriously. A branch of the Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the attack, the deadliest in Russia in 20 years. U.S. officials have publicly said the group, known as Islamic State Khorasan, or ISIS-K bears sole responsibility, but Russian President Putin has tried to put the blame on Ukraine. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization turned 75, facing an old foe and a new squabble. Created at the Cold War's dawn by the United States and 11 allies, NATO now strains to 32 members in the organization. NATO, fresh from a bruising fight over Sweden's accession into the group, turned 75 years old tomorrow, amid a new spat over who should next lead the military alliance. The dispute casts a shadow over what was meant as a celebratory gathering of the top diplomats from the North Atlantic Treaty Organization's 32 members this week. It pits early members against ones that joined after the Cold War, widening a rift that emerged with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And once again, highlighting the potential foolishness of incorporating former Warsaw Pact countries into an organization that was meant to prevent an invasion or threat from those countries. To mark NATO's anniversary, U.S. Ambassador to NATO Julianne Smith is hosting all the diplomats on Wednesday, today, including Secretary of State Blinken and not Antony Blinken, and other dignitaries that are official residents outside Brussels. I've been there. Truman Hall, named after President Truman, who oversaw the alliance's creation back in 1949. Well, Donald Trump is pressing his political advantage against sleepy, creepy Joe Biden. Trump pressed his advantage on immigration issue, rails against Biden's border bloodbath. Woo! Trump is ratcheting up the rhetoric. Former President Donald Trump is looking to put President Biden on his heels and in his rearview mirror over immigration and border security ahead of the general election, warning the Democrats' policies have sparked a bloodbath in the United States. And indeed, they have. Mr. Trump says Mr. Biden's soft approach to the southern border sparked a migrant-fueled crime wave across the country that's left a trail of death and destruction. Now, it's not soft on immigration. It is criminal activity by the Biden regime, illegally bringing people, flying criminal alien invaders into America in violation of U.S. law, in violation of his responsibilities, oath to the Constitution, and for a long period of time, for 2.5 years, in violation of Title 42. Indiscriminately violating law, the man should be impeached and imprisoned for his conduct. This is what Trump had to say. Under crooked Joe Biden, every state is a border state and every town is now a border town because Joe Biden has brought all the carnage and chaos and killing from all over the world and dumped it straight in our backyards, Mr. Trump said Tuesday in Grand Rapids. And I can tell you that it's true. Pennsylvania is suddenly full of people who don't live here, who've been dumped in our midst. We've got people who have nice cars and phones and nice clothes who aren't Americans, who are begging for money and harassing people right here in central Pennsylvania, something that never happened in the 9 years I lived here. The other day, I saw someone with an amplifier playing obnoxiously loud music while a woman held up a sign in English, she's obviously of Latin American origin, begging for money for her family while they're using an amplifier, something I don't even have. And when I went back to my car and sat down, I took a photo of him with his iPhone, but disturbing the peace and interfering with our local residents. Mr. Trump said the border was secure on his watch and pledged he will do it again if voters give Biden the boot in November. Not one more innocent life should be lost to Biden migrant crime. The first step to restoring safety in America is to fire crooked Joe Biden. Well, it's going to be hard to disagree with that. This guy has destroyed America in just a matter of months. Bad news for Sleepy Joe, Crooked Joe, as Trump likes to call him. Trump now leads Biden in 6 of the 7 swing states, according to Wall Street Journal poll. Incumbent Joe Biden trails in most battlegrounds that were decided back in 2016 and 2020 elections. Donald Trump is leading President Biden in 6 of the 7 most competitive states in the 2024 election, propelled by broad voter dissatisfaction with the national economy and deep doubts about Biden's capabilities and job performance, according to a new Wall Street Journal poll. The poll of the election's main battleground shows Trump holding leads of between 2 and 8 percentage points in 6 states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and North Carolina. And just last week, the leftist media was lying, saying that Trump was trailing by almost double digits right here in Pennsylvania. That's a lie. This is a ballot that included third-party and independent candidates. So third-party independent candidates, Trump is ahead of Biden by a wide margin. Trump holds similar leads when voters are asked to choose between only him and Biden. The one outlier is Wisconsin, where Biden leads by 3 points on a multiple candidate ballot and where the two candidates are tied in a head-to-head matchup. Overall, the poll shows substantial unhappiness with Biden among voters who will have the most influence in the outcome of the election. As expected, one-party dominance in states has left just a few as politically competitive. So Trump is out in front where it matters, but it's a long way to November, folks, a long way to November. And that is the news for today. As the rain starts coming down quite loud, where are we at now, folks? It's not quite the top of the hour, but we'll continue here. Thanks for everybody tuning in. Let me read the chat and see what people have had to say here. I hope you can still hear me because the rain is coming down, baby. It's coming down hard. All right, let's get back to the chat here. And I hope Chris survived Noah's Ark. Well, yeah, it rained, and it's raining again, man. Ants, that was from Debbie. And then Garrett is here. John Jarvis, welcome to you. Hakan Engman in from the Netherlands. And then Vilma Rasmus. Erica, welcome. And Gus, Little Miss Know-It-All. Seriously, we need more BEE laws. Exactly. And this one is the private sector. These are government jobs. This is the government immorally telling private employers, private owners of the means of production, who they can hire based on skin pigmentation. Not qualifications, not experience, not talent. This is the death of free market capitalism in South Africa as if it ever existed. Erica, Matthew Dixon's here. And who else we got there? Brian Lawrenson, welcome. Marilyn Brokenshaw. Oh, Onakarabetsa Motong is back again. Hey, Otsi Hili Jang. Hey. Kisi Hili Sentle. All right, good to see you there, man. Jinx is here. Hi, Jinx. I don't recall seeing you before. Allison Johnson. 29 May, we vote DA. Okay, well, anything but DA, anything but ANC, EFF, and MK is going to get the job done. Or PA, maybe. Took a chance to seek asylum in 2016 during huge xenophobic attacks in South Africa whilst in the UK. They told me not desperate enough to go home. Wow, Debbie. Oh, well, but they take all kinds of fake asylum seekers. And Jan Filion is here. Okay, Pierre Orban. Yeah, more like 3 million, at least 3 to 4 million South Africans living abroad. Yep. Pierre Orban, welcome to you. Sedgefield's back. And blessed. Miss Zuma taking ahead again as MK. What? Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, she's joined MK. I didn't see that in the news. Is that what you're talking about, Sedgefield? Wow, Leovin's here. Amazing. Okay. Brian Lawrenson, reserved employment. We can't just win. We just can't win, can we? They'll never be happy. I've been working since the age 15, says Debbie. Yeah, no, you can't win. Tasmania for the same reason. I was told the same thing. Ulrich Fenter's here. We live in a rowboat. Well, I'm living in a rowboat here soon. Mapizi Nakula's resigned as speaker and his MP. Good. I hope she goes to jail too for her crimes, Brett. Hey, Brett Sessoms. What else we got here? Neil De Beer and young Hofmeyer visiting Garden Route this weekend here on Saturday morning, says Sedgefield. Okay, well, I'll have to check in with Neil De Beer and Devin Hofmeyer, who didn't get back. I must have had the wrong number for him, but I did get it from his dad. So, Menage Qua says South African military doesn't belong in the DRC, where there are loads of high crime areas that need their attention. Well, that's a controversial topic, Menage Qua, using the military to police. The Botswana Defense Force does that at Christmas time. South Africa's forces have done that in the past, but the history of South Africa's military being used in townships makes people a little bit nervous about the use. Here, you cannot use in the USA the military for law enforcement. It's illegal. Posse comitatus. Unless, of course, there's martial law. Chris will reply once the news is done, says Debbie. Yep, I'm replying now. So, Jaco van Billion says, good evening, and you're welcome for the updates. My pleasure. Hester Kutza, she's resigned with immediate effect. Thank you for that, Garrett. Hello, Alma van Heckport. Still busy bringing out bales from the hay camp. All right, George. Good to see you there, George Steinberg. And then Croctopia, good evening. Been absent last week or more. Well, it's good to see you back. Always a pleasure. And who else we got here if I missed? A lot of people chatting today. John Hoochins in there. And Weather Keep brings you your spring. Yes, Debbie, but I need to end before the election because it's, it's difficult to, mark on a piece of paper in the rain and then it just runs all over the place. What else we got here? Was going through old clothes, found a 60 British pounds. Wow, that's nice, Sedgefield. Unfortunately, that 60 pounds is worth 5 pounds today. I'm just kidding. Who will be used as an example how ethical the ANC is? You mean the Speaker of Parliament or Zuma's ex-wife? It's unlawful, but we don't do anything means I don't want to be attacked by an angry mob. Gotcha. Yeah, please hit the like button. Thanks, folks. We'd really appreciate that. And Trevor Bush is here. Hey, Trevor, Teresa. Noah's weather back. Yeah, it's definitely here. It's definitely here, folks. South is very fortunate that global instability has saved our markets, massive financial immigration saved us billions, mining saved us. Yeah, no, you're right. It's happened. Oh, Vilma can hear us loud and clear. Thanks. Wow. Okay. When has the free market? Well, that's what I said, Menage Qua. I don't think it's ever existed because the states control the economy. Whoops, what the heck is that? Did I lock the door? The state has controlled everything forever in South Africa. It's never been a free market, but there's no hope of free market now. Thanks, Erica. I'm trying to have a good day here. And that's interesting, but the National Guard deployed in the New York City subway. But John, see, you don't your understanding of U.S. military is not complete. The National Guard is under the control of the governors of the 50 sovereign states and 4 territories. So the governors can use the National Guard for law enforcement, humanitarian missions. The active military is not allowed to be used, according to court decision, for policing. Now, there are exceptions that have been made. For instance, JTF 6, JTF 7, these are counter-drug task force on the border, and U.S. military is used for intelligence and also for logistics purposes to support those national counter-drug task force down on our southern border. But God bless this I'm just going to cut this mustache off because I keep getting something in my mouth there. So the New York National Guard is not the active military. So that's an important distinction that most people are unaware of, even many Americans. So while I served in the Ohio National Guard, one of the training things we did is we went to a prison you're welcome, John, to practice riot control. So we had our shields, just like the police do. We had our batons, just like the police. We had our visors, just like the police. And we learned how to march in a phalanx, and how to react to things coming thrown at us, and how to deal with crowds, trying to disperse crowds. It's all part of the National Guard training. At least it was in Ohio. I believe all states do that. And that was part of our mission. Absolutely. Also, the National Guards have done counter-drug operations inside their own states. My brother was in the Ohio National Guard, and he was a crew chief on a Black Hawk. Back then, it might have been a Huey, but I think it's Black Hawk. And when he was in the National Guard, they went out and they did burns of marijuana fields they found. The irony of the National Guard in New York City subway stations is that the crimes continue to happen. Well, of course they are, Menage a Trois, because the total lawlessness. People who are being caught are being released. So they just go back to doing what they're doing. There's no deterrent threat to keep them from misbehaving. No deterrent threat. Anybody have tell me what time it is? I think we're getting close to the top of the hour here. Okay. Let me see if I can see what time it is. Yeah, I got about 3 minutes here before it's time to drop off. So we got Ronaldo coming up at the top of the hour. 52 people here, 51 likes. Hey, thanks for that. Well, I tell you, folks, it's nice when people tune in and I put all this effort into what we're doing. 10-minute warning. Okay. Thank you, guys. You're telling me that the warning. Gosh, bless it. This is really driving me nuts here. This right here, there's something getting in my mouth. It's very distracting. Oh, very distracting. Anyway. Oh, yeah, Teresa did share the link to my Ballotpedia responses, which I haven't had a chance to record. Folks, I did get home from campaigning last night and doing my work. Yes, little Miss Nona, I will shave my beard off at some point. It is a trademark and people know me for it, but it will go at some point. Yeah, if for those who keep up with current events, this beard is much shorter than it was just a few weeks ago. It was down to here, and then, of course, it was once at my navel. So I've been trimming it up slowly but surely. Yeah, so that's coming up. So anyway. Yeah, John Jarvis shared the Ballotpedia, but last night I didn't get home till 10 o'clock. I had to plot strategy with an advisor last night, and I was also out knocking on doors. Very good reception in the place I went yesterday. So I seem to keep finding places that other candidates haven't been. I just, good fortune or what's going on, but I'm really happy about that. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with 5 people in the race. It's hard to say, but time is coming quickly here, folks. Time is coming quickly. It's April 23rd. And I need people to go out and vote for me. Once the election's over, I've trimmed my mustache almost every day, Erica. And somehow 1 or 2 of these little hairs finds a way back in the corner of my mouth on that side. Never on this side, always on this side. It's very irritating. Anyway, so yeah. Right there. Did I do a brochure? No, I did mailers. I did cards, but brochures are really expensive. Acting like a colonel. Yeah, old British style colonel. Anyway, let me double check. Time check there. 1 minute to go. All right, folks. I don't have the link to automatically take you to Ronaldo. I just got a reminder about candidates night, so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, yeah, so I'll be on with Ronaldo here in a few minutes, as long as he's where he's supposed to be. In fact, let me see if I can find something very quickly here. Yeah. Come on. So I want to make sure Ronaldo's going to be available. The one time I need a WhatsApp notification to be there, and there's none. 5 minutes. Please don't shave your beard, says Erica. Well, I have shaved it. Just, God bless, it's coming down. Anyway, folks, thanks for being here. Be sure to hit the like button. thank you so much. I do appreciate it, and we'll chat again. Hopefully you can join me with Ronaldo here in a couple minutes. God bless. Have a lovely day. Be safe out there. If you're in central Pennsylvania, make sure that you have a Zodiac or a canoe, or maybe you're building an ark, because you're going to need it. This is insane how much rain we're getting. Again, I feel like I'm in Monrovia, West Africa, once again. All right. Oh, Teresa says it's time to shave. All right. Catch you guys shortly. God bless. Thanks so much for your support. Catch you in a few minutes. Bye-bye.